The cutting diagram on QuiltSandwich is a great way for you to know exactly what you need to do with your fabric. It provides the cutting instructions, and it also provides you with the amount of fabric that you need to have on hand for each piece. I'm going to show you how to read the cutting diagrams on my iPad. The cutting diagram layout is exactly the same on your iPhone, but it's just a little bit easier to see on the iPad. I'm also going to show you how to read the cutting diagrams using the quilt that comes with the app Jewelbox Quilt. So let's go ahead and open up Jewelbox Quilt. The first thing that you want to do is tap on the quilt's Create and Edit button. And now you'll see that I'm presented with the quilt and a listing of all of the pieces that are associated with Jewelbox Quilt. To access the cutting diagram within the Quilts button, you just need to tap on one of two places. You can tap on the word Details, and you will be presented with an option called Pattern PDFs, which provides you a complete set of cutting diagrams, a fabric listing, any pictures that you've taken, and any journal entries. So you can always get a complete set for your quilt under Details. You can also get a cutting diagram for the piece level by tapping on one of the pieces listed below. Let's take a look at the cutting diagram for piece 1A. Now on the iPad, just so you don't get confused, the cutting diagram shows on the right hand side. On your phone, you're going to have to tap in the top right hand corner on a pair of scissors. It will display the same information. But let's go through the cutting diagram. So starting at the top, you'll see the cutting diagram is labeled for the quilt that you are working on. You will also see a picture of the quilt that you have loaded. It could be a drawing, it could be an inspiration picture, whatever you have chosen to be displayed on the cutting diagram. Then you will also see a picture of a fabric swatch of the fabric that you have selected. To the right of those pictures, you will see the name of the piece, which is 1A. Below that, you'll see how the fabric was named Jewelbox Purple, and the cutting diagram summarizes that you need 52 squares cut 3.5 by 3.5. Now, when you go through the yardage calculation function to determine how much yardage you need, you put into the yardage calculator finished sizes. The cutting diagram tells you what your cut size is, so you don't need to know any math to know the cut size. You just need to know what size you want your finished piece to be. So I need 52 squares cut 3.5 by 3.5, and I need 5/8 yards in order to cut out those 52 squares, and the fabric that I am using is 44 inches wide. Now you'll see that there's a note that there's a 10% allowance that was added, which equates to approximately 2 1/4 inches that were included in the 5/8 yards for squaring up and for shrinkage if you pre-wash. Those allowances are all customizable based upon what you need for your particular project. So I would encourage you to view the yardage calculator video to help you understand how you go about customizing those settings. But I just want you to know the settings that you put in for the yardage calculator are also documented for you on the cutting diagram. In the middle of the screen, you will see the instructions. You need to fold your fabric along the width and cut 5 strips 3.5 inches wide. And you'll see in the picture below how the selvage edges are oriented and where the fold is located, and how the calculator determined how the 52 squares were going to fit in those 5 strips. Now, just taking a look at how to read the cutting diagram picture, the red dotted lines are where you cut with your rotary cutter. The black lines are where you subcut the strip into the 3.5 inch sized pieces, and the red area shows you that you are not able to get 2 pieces out of that particular part of the strip. You can only get 1 because you're cutting it off of the fold. So if you choose not to do that, the cutting diagram will quickly tell you whether or not that's going to happen, and you can increase your allowances until you have the cutting diagram set how you would like it to be for your particular project. And then the yellow shading shows you how much allowance is left in your fabric, so you can kind of get a sense of how much you have to play with in that regard. Now, the cutting diagram is always 2 pages. To view the second page on the iPad, you're just going to tap Detail. and you will see a picture of the shape that you are working with and a confirmation that the finished size that you want is 3 by 3 and that it's a 1/4 inch seam. Because the yardage calculator allows you to customize your seam width, documenting what seam you have chosen is very important. On your iPhone, you would view this as a PDF and you would just scroll to the second page. So let me show you how that looks on the iPhone. So I'm going to go back to Overview. And now I'm going to view PDF. So I'm going to tap View PDF. And you will see a PDF version of what you just saw on the screen. So here's page 1 with my cutting instructions, and here is page 2 with the shape and the detailed information. Now, one thing to note is the drawing on page 2 is not to actual size. So make sure you don't use that as any kind of a template unless you have verified that it is the size that you need it to be. And if it's not, you may want to choose to enlarge it on your photocopy machine or on your printer by using a Size It, which is found under Help and Utilities. Now, one thing that is really great about the cutting diagram is you can print or email it, and all you have to do is to tap the box with the arrow and you will have the option to either print or email. So you always have a way to share the information or to have it on a piece of paper at your cutting table if you need to make notations about how you are progressing on your quilt. But let's go back to Jewel Box Quilt. And I'd like to show you the other ways that you can access the cutting diagram. Because it's such an important component, the QuiltSandwich app allows you to access the cutting diagram from anywhere within the app. So let's go back to our home page, and I want to show you on the Yardage Calculator. You will see that there is a cutting diagram that you can access as well. So as you are doing your yardage calculations, you can confirm that this is how you would like to orient your fabric, how you would like to use your yardage before you save that information to your quilt. You can also access the cutting diagram through your fabric stash. Instead of going back to the home page, I'm just going to tap Fabrics down here on the bottom of my screen. And there you will see the fabrics that are associated with Jewel Box Quilt. To view the cutting diagram, all I'm going to do is to tap one of the fabric tiles. And then all I need to do is look to the middle of the screen where it says Cutting Diagrams for Fabric by Piece and tap on one of those particular pieces. And there you will see the cutting diagram. You can also access the cutting diagram through the shopping list. So let's go back to the home page to access the shopping list. I can also access the shopping list from the bottom of the screen as well. So here's shopping list. Here's the shopping list for Jewel Box. I want to look at my cutting diagram. I'm going to take a look at this Jewel Box Golden cutting diagram. And there in the middle of the page, it says Cutting Diagrams for Fabric by Piece. I'm going to tap on that piece information, and there is my cutting diagram. Now, in all of those places, I also have the ability to print or email the cutting diagram information. One last item to tell you about is you can also generate all of the cutting diagrams together in one big fell swoop when you're all ready to go from Help and Utilities as well. So let's just tap on Help and Utilities, and you'll see where it says Pattern PDFs. And Jewel Box Quilt is the quilt that I have selected. If I have more than one quilt loaded, just tap on the squiggly line and you'll be able to switch the quilt that you would like to have the cutting diagrams generated. But I'm going to build the cutting diagrams for Jewel Box Quilt. And you can see that it's building. You can see it counting. It's going to generate up to 30 It's going to generate up to 30 PDFs. This includes not only the cutting diagrams, but also the journal and my fabric listing. So you can see all of them listed below. So you can email them all at once by tapping on the envelope. And you'll see that all you need to do is just address your email. Now, if you want to delete an item from your email list, you can do that from this particular screen. All you need to do is slide to the left on the item that you don't want to mail, and you'll see the red delete button. Just tap delete, and that PDF will not be mailed. So you can see the cutting diagram is a way for you to always know what the yardage calculator is doing, and is a way for you to also print out your cutting instructions and keep track of all of your pattern information. It's a very powerful tool that allows you to make your quilt the way you want to make it. If you have any questions about the cutting diagram or the QuiltSandwich app, you can go to our website, QuiltSandwichApp.com, to send us an email.